everybody, welcome to another What a Hell of a Way News Roundup. It's Francis. I'm recording. Again, I'm just kind of adjusting things, so I'm recording with my actual nice podcasting microphone and not my lavalier. I always see a lot of the big name, the big streamers. They have a microphone, that's visible a lot. So why not me? Because otherwise, you get back and forth quality when I go from recording these to going to record the readings that I do. Because I always do the readings on this very nice, very expensive podcast microphone, and not the cheap $50 lavalier microphone that I bought, which is perfectly fine for some things, but you guys deserve some good sound quality, is at least the best that I can give you. So I'm going to start using the nice microphone all the time. So I'm also recording during the day. Usually I record during the night, so my lighting's a little bit different. Only, real video nerd heads who have been keeping track of what the fuck I do are going to know that or give a shit. But I'm going to be on vacation all next week, and because I am a very professional podcaster, I want to make sure that you guys have the content that you have been that you've grown to expect. Been doing this every week for about 2 months now, and I don't want to stop it just because I'm going to be on vacation. I can do all the editing. I have to shoot everything here. I can do all the editing later on just because I have control over this environment a little bit more than I would have control where we're going, which is going to be Branson, Missouri. Haven't been in probably about 4 years or so. Going to go see the Titanic Museum, go to Silver Dollar City. There's a lot of controversy around Branson, and I know that some people are going to kind of raise an eyebrow to it, but like Silver Dollar City had very stringent mask mandates, along with all the other, like the only amusement park that didn't have stringent mask mandates during COVID was Holiday World in Indiana, because it's like the only one that's owned independently. Like all these places are like, usually owned by a conglomerate. Silver Dollar City, the people that own Silver Dollar City own multiple places. So Silver Dollar City also, the last time it was in the news was because somebody claimed that they weren't allowed to come into Silver Dollar City because they had a Rainbow Pride bag. That was not the case, as it turned out. The reason they weren't being allowed in wasn't the bag, it was the t-shirt. One of them was wearing that referenced eating pussy. You know what? There's got to be a line somewhere. And nobody's offended. Yeah, well, only stupid people are offended by like a pride thing, but I don't want to read your pussy eating t-shirt when I'm at anywhere. I don't want to go to Six Flags and well, I guess Six Flags would be okay. It's kind of a lower tier amusement park. That's where you can go to Six Flags to wear your pussy eating t-shirts, I guess. But also just southern Missouri, so just fucking beautiful. Like it's all forested Ozark Mountains. Like it's I have a love-hate relationship with this state, obviously, because we are a Republican supermajority. We used to be a purple state, and that was only like 25 years ago. Like I remember us being a purple state, and now we're fucking deep into the red because everybody here is just like strung out on oxys, and we got brain worms at this point. So it's the Midwest is where you come for that kind of nonsense, I suppose. Illinois is really nice, but Illinois is kind of run by Chicago, so that keeps the rest of it blue. The part of Illinois that we touch is not very blue. However, I have a love-hate relationship with Missouri because it's a beautiful state. It touches 7 different states. The way the state is up north is all like glacial plain, and down south is all Ozark Mountains. It's an ancient mountain range, and there's just a lot of my family history is down there. So it has a little something, and I just haven't gotten into the heart of Missouri in a long time. We do a lot of travel elsewhere, a lot of times down to Florida. So Missouri is at least like a little half step up from crazy that Florida is, I would say. But I think that's because Florida has a lot more money, and that makes them more insane. But anyway, nice vacation we're going to have down there. And I'm not going to be recording down there because it is a very noisy area with a lot of nature happening, and I just don't know if I'm going to have what I need to give a halfway decent product. But so let's go ahead and jump in. We've got some news, and I've got the things that I've been reading that we'll go over. So first news thing that we're going to talk about is we're going back to Tuberville, just because there's two articles that I read about Tuberville, and we'll touch on this one, and then we'll talk about the other one, because they're not exactly related, but they are both military related, but they don't relate to each other necessarily. So this one is troops avoid the abortion travel policy fueling the Tuberville blockade. So Politico, and it's a decent article. Like the headline made it kind of sound like there was some kind of hinky shit that they were trying to, but like the truth of the matter is that there is this. So if you're not up to date on it, Tuberville has been stopping people from soldiers. Like if you're in Missouri and you need an abortion, the government will pay for you to go to a different state to get what you need. They don't pay for the abortion, but they do pay for the travel. So, paying for the abortion is against the Hyde Act, and there's a whole thing. But Tuberville's whole thing is just, nobody should be doing that. So he's been blocking the promotion of over 200, almost 300 flag officers, generals, things like that, because those have to go through the Senate. They have to go through a vetting period and everything. So he's been blocking all of that. I don't know how one guy gets to do that. Seems like a flaw in whatever system you've got going on here for one guy. But we watched when the speaker was being elected by the Republicans. It took them 12 times to do it because their heads are so fucking far up their own asses that they can't seem to agree on anything. And usually that's really funny, but it's not funny when it affects everything else. And at a certain point, not having the leadership in position to do these things is going to do more damage to your military than a handful of abortions. So, but this article kind of goes through that there's not a lot of women that actually use this this policy that the DoD has. And it gives a lot of different reasons, and one of the big reasons is, of course, it's a privacy thing. So getting an abortion is a medical procedure, and you should have the right to not have to tell anybody, I need to get a medical procedure done, because that is, HIPAA and your rights as just a normal human being to not have to tell anybody else. But unfortunately, with this policy, you have to go to your commander, your officer, and be like, I need an abortion. Sign these. These are the go get an abortion paperworks, and not everybody wants to sign that stuff. People will might try to do it secretly, or they might try to do it over leave instead. And it does talk about how some women who have done this felt like they were retaliated against. They come back from after having the procedure done and are immediately transferred out. Oh, we can't. It's disgusting to have you around or something. So there's this kind of argument that it feels like it's trying to make of just this policy is barely even used. But the thing is that if it's even used once, then it's a good policy because it's available to people. And, we need to get the rest of our soldiers over the whole, abortion is a problem. It's none of your fucking business is the thing. So if somebody needs to get one, they need to be able to do that without fear of retaliation or fear of being told no, or just some people just it's hard to tell somebody that, it's medical, it's embarrassing. It's, maybe it's you feel a little bit ashamed of it, maybe because you feel it, or maybe because they're going to make you feel it. It just fucking sucks. But it is at least something that's available. And, the Tuberville is just, his idea is that I can keep doing this blockade because so few people use it. We can make them think that it's not, it's not worthwhile. And reproductive health is so important, and it's incredibly important for, our soldiers. It is so hard to be a woman in the Army. I never really appreciated that when I was a younger soldier. But I have a friend who I met her in AIT, and hers and my careers had very similar pathways. She lived, we met in AIT, and she moved. She lived in Belleville, which is right across the river from St. Louis. So we lived close together also, and so she was in my unit for a while. So she and I have been, military buddies for a year, 20 plus years at this point. And it was so fucking hard for her, and I know it was, and I know in some ways she loved being in the Army, and I know in a lot of ways that it was very difficult for her to be in the Army. So I really sympathize for women who join the Army, because like as soon as you join, you have to prove yourself, right? Like everybody's gonna immediately kind of like, not everybody, but a large portion of soldiers, you have to like you start underneath the baseline of respect. So if you're a woman and you join the military, any branch, God bless you. I don't know if as somebody who has for my entire life been a Christian raised straight white cis male, everybody else I understand fucking goes through it. And so it sucks that this is like one other thing that they're trying to take away from women and reproductive health in the military, something that's already very difficult to get a hold of and very difficult to be able to do and not have a bunch of shitty men afterwards making it even worse. So the other Tuberville thing that I wanted to talk about too was this very interesting article here that from Task and Purpose, that it's going to take 700 hours of voting required to bypass Tuberville's hold. So say Tuberville pulls his head out of his ass and is just like, okay, fine, I'm done with this. Let's go ahead and start the process. Apparently, it would take 3 months to go through all of the voting, all the vetting. There's the 273 generals and admirals with promotions on hold by Tuberville would take 700 hours of nonstop voting by the Senate, or about 3 months during business hours, not doing it 24/7. So, big question here, though, is why does it take this long? I mean, I guess there's got to be a vetting process if you're making generals. But does that really help? Because we have shitty generals and admirals all the time who end up being huge pieces of shit. So I'm not too sure what exactly else this really is necessary to go through. But the Senate bureaucracy is always going to have their ways with whatever. But I thought that this was a very interesting part of what else is going on here, because again, Tuberville, huge piece of shit for what he's doing and for many other reasons. He makes everybody call him coach. Like everybody has to call him coach because he was a coach, and I don't know. I didn't look too. He's that jackass though. But yeah, so 700 at 3 months, like that seems. So what we're saying is that 3 months would have been wasted earlier during the regular speed of things, I suppose. But like, yeah, they would have to dedicate 3 months of time. So we'll see, man. This whole American experiment is getting real interesting lately, I suppose. So. So what else do we have? This military cases of condition made worse by shaving have skyrocketed. So, shaving, everybody in the military has got to do it. Everybody in the military also, the men at least, very much against it for the most part. The only people who really like shaving are like your shitty generals who really, your shitty majors who really like to yell at people for not, shaving when they should or whatever. Personally, being a reservist, it wasn't too bad because I only had it 1 week in a month. Currently, I shave 2 or 3 times a week, usually at least 2, sometimes 3. But when I had to do active duty stuff, when I was on, orders or doing training, multiple days in a row, I would have to stagger myself about 1.5 days shaving because of the way I get all the bumps all over my neck. I get the bumps, especially when you're field shaving. It fucking sucks. Field shaving is the worst because maybe you don't have hot water. Like you just got this guy here, he's shaving with a bottle of water and some shaving cream. And like, guess what? Sometimes you don't have the shaving cream. Like and look, people are a lot better about it now. Back in my day, sometimes you didn't think ahead or you ran out but a cold water shave is one of the worst fucking things ever. Like, especially like you wake up on a cool morning, you're in the field, it's maybe about a nice 55, 60 degrees, which is a great way to start the morning, but not when you have to go to a water buffalo to shave your face. That's when the day really starts to kind of go downhill from that point. So, this is an article, and I'll bring the thing back on over here. So there's medical conditions made worse. That's the pseudophallicitis barbae. if you've not been in the military, a large percent of black soldiers, and this article says 45% of black service members are affected by this. It's painful inflammation and razor bumps. And I do, like I said, I get it along my neck because the unfortunate thing is my neck down here grows in as thick as it does up here, but the neck skin is different than the face skin. Science, I guess. I don't fucking know. But these cases have been getting worse and worse, I guess, because more and more people are having to shave. I don't know why it's increasing currently. Like, it seems to really have skyrocketed in the last couple of years. Maybe Zoomer faces are made different. I don't know. Maybe us millennials are made out of tougher stuff. But all the new kids are getting this problem. So another kind of like forward motion into like why do they make us shave? But I get it. I understand the shaving because some of y'all with beards just look like assholes. And I know that like people are going to try to join the military and grow the big operator beard and look really fucking cool. And it's like, guy, you're a tanker. And like, we don't use tanks that much anymore. Like, you look cool out on the range, don't get me wrong, but we're not using you right now. You don't need to look like that, but you got Punisher logo on all of his shit. So, I understand. And also, it's a uniformity thing. If I would respect the Army more if it just came out and said, because I said so. That's why you're going to shave more often. But if the Army also was just like, look, you can go 48 hours between a shave. That's fine. You can go that far between a shave. And I know for me, it would help. It would have always helped me out. 48 hours between a shave and some warm water. I have no problems there. And fresh razors too. A lot of younger guys just don't know how to shave, and they use the same disposable razor like every day for weeks on end. It's like, it's a disposable razor, man. You use it like twice, maybe 3 times, and then you gotta chuck it. So some guys just don't know how to shave too. That's always a problem. So, but this is an interesting thing that I was reading, and again, as I said, I understand it, but also there's no reason other than control and uniformity to continue to do this. And you know what? Militaries all over the world have beards. Look to any other military. The British get to have cooler mustaches than us. I don't think they get to have the big full beards. But, if you can demonstrate that you can get a seal then on your gas mask, then fine. I guess that works. But even that, we don't really, chemical warfare isn't that much of a threat these days. You look at Ukraine and Russia; they're not using chemical warfare against each other. So, the whole it needs to have a seal just kind of goes out the window, and it's like we don't use it. Everybody realized that, of all the weapons of war that we have, of all the ways that we have figured out a way to kill each other, that noxious gas, mustard gas, is like a fucking bridge too far, guys. It's but also because you can't, if you throw mustard gas and then a wind blows it right back at you, you're kind of fucked. That happened a lot in World War I. So everybody kind of agreed this stuff, it was a time, we're kind of beyond it. Let's just go back to shooting each other with larger explosives that can pinpoint things much more accurately. The giant sword missile is a much bigger improvement on anything that they were doing with gas. So anyway, that's a long tangent. Thumbs up to not having to make these guys shave anymore. I always want things to be better than when it was when I was in. I'm glad you guys don't have to polish your boots on a regular basis. I'm glad that nobody's making you iron your uniforms. And if somebody said, look, you can stop, you don't have to shave every day because it can really do some damage to your face and really fuck you up for, fuck up your looks and everything. Something that the military has never had a problem with, if you were old enough to remember the old chunky BCG glasses, the birth control glasses that we called them. So, but yeah, thumbs up. Let's get rid of shaving. Maybe not altogether. Maybe we have to come up with some new rules. If there's anything that the military loves to do, it's make rules about stuff. So I'm not too concerned about that. I think they'll manage it. You got a whole 670-1 on how to put a uniform on. I'm pretty sure you can add something in there on the wear of a beard. All right, let's talk about some media that we have going on this week. So for our show, what we have for our bonus episode over on Patreon for our subscribers, we have an interview that I did with Max Collins from Eve 6. if you're not familiar with who Eve 6 is, you are probably under the age of 35. Eve 6 was a really big band, a very popular alt-rock band in the late 90s, early 2000s. And Max is, he's 45, I'm 40. I was a fan of his back when I was younger in high school. I know Nate was a big fan as well. We both have seen concerts, but like way back in the day. So I brought Max on. He's very active on Twitter under the Eve 6 handle. And he's very much a comrade in his own rights. He's very left-leaning himself and very funny. So you should be following him if you're not. But also, he's a dad. And so I'm kind of pushing this to be a lot more, also dad-centric as well as military-centric. Kind of bridging a gap here. Really, this is just a podcast for me to talk about whatever I want to talk about sometimes. So I brought Max on, and I'm wanting to bring more dads on. I want to kind of rotate it through and just talk about, because everybody does fatherhood differently. Max and I had a lot of things that were very similar on, but I've also talked to some dads who are very night owlish. I've got a friend who is a father through adoption. He's adopted 2 children so far, and he actually just adopted a second child, and he's kind of going through some things. There's a lot of things that like we just you don't think about in those situations that might crop up. So I'm looking forward to doing a lot more of those. So that's our bonus. The link for it is down below on our Patreon, where we have also hundreds of hours. We've been doing this for about 7 years. We've been putting out 3 or 4 bonus episodes per month, going back multiple years. So there's a lot of content out there. And I like to put, some kind of exciting stuff on there. But understandable if you don't have the time, the money, or the wherewithal to give us those dollars, we will eventually release this as a regular episode. Come Christmas, because Nate and I always take Christmas off. No recording or anything like that. So we go into the vault and release some stuff. So that one will be out. If you can wait for Christmas, I'll give you a gift then. Otherwise, that's on the Patreon. Our regular episode, I talk with Task and Purpose writer and I think part editor Nick Slayton. Nick's been on the show before, and he wrote an article about UAPs, which is the new word for UFOs. So we talk about, the government is no longer trying to hide UFOs. They're just like, look, here's a UFO. Do you know what it is? Here's what we kind of figured out what it is. And the website they have is not very good yet. Maybe it's only about a month old, but Nick and I kind of go through it. We read some of the frequently asked questions. And it's this kind of whole new thing that the government's doing, but you can't really tell how much money they've dumped into it. It does not seem like a lot. The website it's a .gov website, and it looks like dog shit, but so do most government websites. So, that's just kind of how those things roll. I don't know why the DoD and the government cannot hire a halfway decent web designer to do web design for any of our stuff. If you go to any other website, it's nice, it's precise, it's pristine, it's got things where you need it. Army websites is just here's a fuck ton of links. Here you go, jackass. Click on whatever you need. No, the training that you need to do, that mandatory training you have to do, those 10 classes, they're on 10 different websites. No, I don't know why. Yes, you need to sign into each one of them with your CAC. I don't know how we expect to win wars sometimes. We don't, as it turns out. Not yet. Not for a while, it seems. So anyway, those are the regular things that we have. The Patreon is already out. The regular episode will be coming out on Thursday, which usually comes out after these. So subscribe, listen to, come on over and listen to us. We got a lot of different stuff going on. So other media that I am consuming. This is a very good article from the Baffler magazine. Let me bring up so this is called maximize. This is called Land Ho. The Trad Wife is a Pioneer Burlesque. This is a fantastic article written about a lot of the Trad Wife movement that's been cropping up, and specifically talks about one family known as I believe Ballerina Farms, and how this woman has this whole very, chic kind of, she has this video of like making a meatball sandwich from scratch, making the bread, making, cooking the meatballs with sauce that she made herself and things like that while doing all this. And it's, for like, it's a very interesting way of, I like watching stuff like that because it's, she is doing things that are very, this is here's the old way that people did things. And and not only is it the old way, but like I've mastered it. There's a lot of things of the old ways that I could not do. Land navigation for one of them. Could not do that. Give me a GPS, please. I used to be able to do land nav. I cannot anymore. Because it's kind of an old way of doing things. We don't do it very often. We have new ways of, we have better ovens and things like that. So, but this is a very good look into kind of the online trad wife movement, and how it's very conservative, and how it's this whole like, oh, this is how families should be. The woman at home sweating her ass off over, making all of this shit, and the husband out, being the moneymaker and everything. And like, that's a nice, and if that's how you want to live, that's fine. Like, I would not tell anybody you're not allowed to do that, but you can't tell other people that the way they do it isn't the right way, because I don't live like this. I cannot. I do not have the money. And these people are also exorbitantly rich. So which they kind of don't bring up in their whole thing. Like the husband is like the son of the guy who did JetBlue or something like that. But they got money, and they've got farm hands, and they've got a lot of, but the whole like the persona that they put out on Instagram and TikTok is that they're these very rustic living, simple life. Like, there's absolutely no way that they're living like that. I guarantee you that this woman stops off at McDonald's sometimes. You just don't see it. And they do mention like, yeah, sometimes you're grabbing fast food. It happens, man. Like, I just hate this. Like, I think it's great to be able to do things like this. Like, if you want to do those things, if you want to have a TikTok thing that does that. And the article does say that this person is specifically very non-political in what they talk about, because they understand where they sit, and it feels like in a better world, in a less insane political structure, this could be seen as this like, hey, here's this hobby farm that we have. While we, are also multimillionaires, but we created a hobby farm because this is what we wanted to do with things. Fine. Like, that's your money. You can do that, if you want. And, if this woman is taking the time to, like, in her spare time, I want to learn how to do all of these things. That's great. I would love to watch those videos, but I just don't want it dripped in this patina of, and then this is how it should be, and this is how women should be. They should be in the kitchen doing this shit. Like, my wife doesn't want to do that. I don't want her to do that. Like, she's got shit to do. I would much rather throw a pizza in the oven and watch some TV than what this woman went through. But I get to watch her do it and do all the little cuts, so I don't have to do all of the actual work. It's very nice. But so this is a great article. It's going to be linked below. Definitely, you should read that. So our next thing, I've been catching up. My wife and I have been catching up with Strange New Worlds. The recent episode that we watched is the one where Spock gets turned fully human. And I got nothing says better Star Trek like there's a glowing hole in space over there. Let's go check it out. And then some wacky shit's going to happen. Some of my favorite Star Trek. So if you are a fan of Star Trek, you haven't been watching Strange New Worlds, it's fantastic. I know I'm behind, and it's just because I don't have time to sit down and watch TV all the time. Sometimes my kid goes to sleep, and then I have to go fill orders, or I come out to the pod shack and I do videos like this and recordings, or I'm doing other things. So we don't always get the time, and then when we do have the time, we're not always in a Trek mood. So, but I'm wanting to do more Strange New Worlds because I know that we're coming up on a crossover with Lower Decks. And I really love Lower Decks. I know it's not big on everybody who's Star Trek, but I love Lower Decks, so I'm looking forward to that one. Not looking forward to the musical one. I think this one's going to be a little bit weird, but I do like that they're fucking around with it. That they've got this like Star Trek. Let's be weird with it. Let's see what we can do. And if something works or something doesn't work, that's fine. Every Star Trek series has a shitload of bad episodes. Strange New Worlds only has 20 so far, and you gotta think, like, back in the TNG days and the Deep Space Nine and the Voyager days, 20 episodes is what you had, 24 is what you had to crank out in a year, and so they get, 2 seasons, 10 episodes per season. I really think this is a more fun, a better way of doing it. Like, I do miss old Trek in the way that it was shot, but we don't have to do that anymore. We can we can write good scripts. We don't have to necessarily have, like, the Neelix cheese taking down Voyager, and we don't have to have the Move Along Home episode. I'm a Move Along Home defender. I think Move Along Home is an all right episode. It's for what it was. The really funny thing about Move Along Home is that there's the whole thing is that this is the first contact that anybody has made with anybody in the Delta Quadrant. I think the Gamma Quadrant. No, there was one other. The first person, the first alien that came through. They sent the captain was just like, wow, the first alien from the Gamma Quadrant. Where's the Delta? I can't. No, it is the Delta. First person from the Delta Quadrant. Go hang out with, go drinking with Miles O'Brien while we try to figure out something else. But they're not, first contact in Star Trek is very just like, we'll hit the bar, man. We'll figure it out. So that's why. So some of that was really good stuff. But Strange New Worlds is a fantastic send up to it. So if you're a Trek fan, definitely you should be watching Strange New Worlds. And then finally, I picked up this book, the most dad book that I saw at the library. I went to go pick up a DVD from the library. I still get DVDs from the library because there are some DVDs that you cannot get anywhere else. The old 90s TV show Northern Exposure, you cannot find streaming because of the music that's in it, which is a real downside to a lot of what's going on with streaming, is that, like, it's weird. So here's what, and I just thought about this. It doesn't make sense, right? So what's his name who played Jesse Pinkman in Aaron Paul, who played Jesse Pinkman in Breaking Bad, says that he doesn't see any money from from it being, like, incredibly popular on Netflix. Like, he got his money for it, and that's it. He gets no residuals or anything like that. If it was on TV and being shown on a regular basis, he would be making money from that. So that, that makes sense, and I understand why they're striking for that. But, like, it doesn't make sense that, why they have to pay music rights for streaming and things like that, but you don't have to do it for the actors. I don't know. There's a weird thing of, like, content ownership there. Maybe, because I wrote and made the song, it's mine, but because I was acting for, I don't know. Also, it could just be that studio executives are assholes. Anyway, I was at the library picking up a DVD, actually a documentary about Branson, called We Always Lie to Strangers, which was shot about 10 years ago. It's very interesting, like, talks about the theater district, because it's a huge theater area. Like, Branson, Missouri is Las Vegas run by Ned Flanders. It has a lot of theaters. It has a very bustling gay community in it, even though people in that, like, deep heart of Missouri do not like gay people. But also, you can't have a theater district without gay people. You're gonna attract gay people. There are not enough straight men dancing to 1960s medleys for you to fill up theaters, all the theaters that we have in Branson. So, very great documentary. But anyway, while I was there, I picked this up, The Age of Wood, a book about wood throughout the ages. I can't tell you how excited I am. I've kind of started flipping through it. I'm saving this for the vacation. I've read, like, the prologue and everything. And, it's a great, like, how we've used wood and how we've changed, entire biomes because of wood. Like, the prologue is talking about the masts, like the masts on these ships. That is an entire fucking tree, and it's got 3 masts. So, like, where are you finding those trees? And the lumber trade and everything like that, and shit like that is very fascinating to me. I'm a logistics guy. I love to know how all of these things are kind of accomplished. So, looking forward to this. I like anthropology books. I like books about the history of humanity. And this kind of falls into that because this is about how we interact with it, and all the changes that we've made to, society and everything because we all have wood. So, also, who doesn't love a book that can be one gigantic dick joke at the same time? So I'll give you a report on that next week, when I come back and I'm recording. I'm looking forward to it and hope to enjoy it. This week, I'm reading from the Enlisted Times. Enlisted Times was a periodical, as far as I can see, only published from 1979 to 1980. It was kind of put out as a, this is for the lower enlisted, things like Army Times, Stars and Stripes, all the big periodicals and the big publications. Those were all for the upper echelon. That's for the officers. That's for the senior NCOs. Where's something for the junior enlisted? And really what that's asking is, where's the thing that we can, bitch and moan inside of, which is, again, one of the big reasons why I read from these, because I love all that kind of stuff. And they're not wrong. The lower enlisted bitching and moaning about things, usually they are correct. Inside of a lot of these, we've seen articles about bad housing, bad healthcare, bad childcare, bad treatment of minorities or women in the military. Hearing loss is going to be something that we talk about on this week. So, all these things, this is 1979 when this is published. So we're looking 50-ish years ago or so. And, they're still complaining about all the same things. So let's start with letters from our readers. Enlisted Times is one of those magazines that had a little bit of a budget and a little forward thinking. A lot of the stuff that I read from is very hastily put together, but Enlisted Times looks like it had kind of a professional backing to it. It's got advertisements in it. Advertisements inside of an anti-war zine is always the top tier kind of thing, because that means they have money coming in and money going out, and it's not necessarily just about creating an anti-war zine, but it's about creating a periodical and a publication that hopefully can last a little bit longer. That unfortunately, as I said, I can only see this going about until 1979 to 1980, as far as I can see with this. So very, very short run, but I really enjoy it. Let's see. So letters from our readers. Number one is enlisting. Be ready for a mind game. Someone has finally had the balls to tell it like it is for the military personnel. I have passed your magazine around to quite a few people, and you should be receiving new subscriptions from the USS South Carolina. Too many people have been screwed out here, and it's time for our shit to be on the other side of the stick. You have turned us on to a lot of information. Your articles are outstanding. There have been too many people in the service shuffled around, too much bullshit given to the little man of the Navy and all other services. I was recently screwed on a drug bust. Were you? And on the word of someone higher ranking than I was. Corrective action is being sought as soon as some of my rights are restored when my ship gets back to CONUS, which is continental United States. I hope your magazine gets circulated through the military and also the people of the United States who are thinking of enlisting. To those who are, here's the one thing I would say. Read your contract. Write on and keep the peace. This is from Bob Craig, RMSN. I don't know Navy ranks, but that's the Navy rank there on the USS South Carolina. And just for all of your edification, the USS South Carolina, there's been a couple of them. One was a World War I boat, but this one, the USS South Carolina is the second ship of the California class, which, if you're going to name a class of ship after a state, you should name the ships inside of that class maybe after cities inside of it. Kind of like if you watch Lower Decks, the Cerritos is a California class ship. Cerritos is a city, and all the other California classes are named after various cities inside of California. So, naming this one South Carolina, it's just Navy naming conventions. That's just how they work. So another letter. This one comes from Jim Vinning, a U.S. Air Force clinician. This says, the era of the informed enlistee. Congratulations on what I hope will become the new space and time. The era of the informed enlistee. How many of us would be enlistees if we were informed to begin with? And thank you for providing we, the disenchanted, with a vehicle for expression and unity. I hope, in the Air Force, the Air Farce, we learned to hope a lot, not expect. But I hope to be a long time gone by the time my subscription runs out. I think this paper could make a difference. I read the articles for and against banning unions for service members. I'd like to see another authoritative article discussing the pros and cons of a military union itself. As with the question of reinstating the draft, I don't feel very knowledgeable about a military union. And just a word to the lifers who condemn this paper because they don't know what it means, who pray for the next war that they might validate their existence. Peace. So again, that's Jim Vinning, a U.S. Air Force clinician in Germany. So technically, it's illegal for the federal military to unionize. However, we have talked in the past about National Guard is actually allowed to unionize when they're on state missions, but not when they're on federal missions. So, yeah, they made a rule about military unions a long time ago, and it sucks and it's shit. But I understand why it's trying to keep us in our place. The problem becomes, a military union is really there for all the lower enlisted and the people who really get screwed over, and maybe they stick around and maybe they don't. But to become one of the higher ups, to become the senior NCO, you have to be part of that lower group as well. So I don't, maybe it would be if we had a union and then people kind of go up the enlisted union and are able to become leaders, but also maybe they would be less shitty. Probably not, though. Just knowing how the military does its rank structure and and the way that it does promotions, because usually you get promoted because you run fast, or you shoot straight or something like that, not because you're actually good at being a leader. 1979 things might be a little bit different. They do also mention the draft. The draft is not a thing at this point. So it's anti-war zine, but not it's anti getting screwed over by the military and trying to give the enlisted people an idea of what their rights are. Now let's start getting into the meat of this. I found a great article inside of here called "Rioting Sailors Battle Police at Great Lakes." Who doesn't love to hear the Godzilla versus King Kong fights? And because we are ostensibly a little bit more pro-military than we are pro-cops, especially during this time, it's very funny to watch just a whole mob of sailors get together and go beat the shit out of people who are kind of beating the shit out of them. Nobody thought the sunny but cool Saturday afternoon, June 24th, could trigger a full-scale riot at the Great Lakes Naval Base, the nation's largest recruiting center, but it did. A seemingly minor confrontation between a few sailors and civilian picnickers in Foss Park, which borders the naval base, exploded into riots reminiscent of the 60s and 70s. The end result? More than 100 sailors were arrested by base or North Chicago police. Most were charged with mob action. I don't know what what mob action, if that's kind of the precursor to RICO or whatever, but you gotta have some way to put sailors in prison for all getting together. Like the one time sailors get together and do some fucking teamwork, you gotta put them in prison. The partying only lasted from 2 to 4 p.m. that Sunday, and the real fighting didn't erupt until after 8 p.m. The word was out that a group of civilians crawled through a hole in the Great Lakes fence and allegedly beat up a sailor. One report was that the civilians singed the sailor's hair, knocked out his teeth, and broke his legs. At any rate, his buddies ganged up and went after reinforcements and returned to get revenge. These day and age, if you sneak onto a military base, you're probably at best you're gonna get arrested. At worst, you're gonna get fucking shot. At least 200 sailors were involved in the first night's brawl. Many of the sailors were snipes, the Navy nickname for boiler technicians and machinist mates. They moved to Gate 4, which is near the Strip, which is lined with eateries, souvenir shops, pool rooms, liquor stores, and bars that feature nude dancing. Ooh. Rocks were thrown at random, striking sailors, policemen, shore patrolmen, squad cars, fire trucks, ambulances, and even 2 Chicago and Northwestern Railroad commuter trains. Windshields were smashed at least 8 squad cars, with several others were dented by the rocks. The next night was even worse, as the angry sailors overturned other squad cars and left the Strip in shambles by hurling rocks through the storefronts. 8 sailors were injured, scores were arrested, and property damage was estimated at more than $50,000. You cannot take her eye off of sailors for too long. We joke about, the Army and the Marines being rowdy, but like sailors, like when you're on a boat for like 6 months out of the year, just like and staring at the same faces and smelling the same smells, like you got to be crazy to be on a submarine, like real crazy to be on a submarine, but to do a ship deployment, you got to be at also a level of crazy, that because it sounds insane. So you got to keep a lid on sailors. Navy officials slapped an 8 p.m. curfew on the base after the second melee and had beefed up shore patrol personnel with more than 300 Seabees in attempts to contain the troops. Seabees are not cops, so I don't know why they're using Seabees here, but I guess it's probably just what they had. They can't, not like they can grab the machinists, the machine runners, because they're the ones actually breaking shit. More than 100 riot-equipped policemen from North Chicago, Great Lakes, and Lake County battled with an estimated 300 sailors for more than 2 hours. Waukegan police were called in as backup units, along with 2 carloads of riot-trained Illinois state troopers. Sailors seemed to be in agreement that the second night of rioting was a result of resentment against the Strip. The sailors contended the Strip was a ripoff because of the exorbitant prices they said merchants were charging. They also claimed that they had been easy targets for mugging in North Chicago and had been harassed by prostitutes hustling from cars in the strips and also by drug pushers. Oh, okay, so we got some Boy Scout sailors here. Sure. Like the pricing thing, yeah, obviously, but also when civilians set up shop outside of a military base, they know that you have a steady income and not a whole lot to spend it on. So yeah, they're going to charge a little bit more. But also I understand nobody likes. I'm not condoning. I'm saying I understand why you would start throwing bricks through some shop windows while you're also throwing bricks at the cops. The sailors were also unhappy about inadequate recreational facilities on the base and lack of transportation for shore leave. Absolutely. Like a military base, and when I was on Fort Meade in Maryland, we would, and this is just after 9/11, so things were real weird, but we were able to walk to the front gate and order a taxi, and the taxi, pile a bunch of us in there, $20, not per person, but $20 for the ride, so we could pile a bunch of people in. And that taxi would take us out to the closest light rail station to go into Washington, D.C. So you all take the taxi early in the morning, you go to Washington, D.C., spend the day and everything, come back. Naval bases are huge. Like, if you've never been on a naval base, they are fucking gigantic, especially the ones that are meant for, shipbuilding or repairs or maintenance and things like that. This is in the Chicago area, so it's on the Great Lakes. It's not as big as the ones in San Diego, but still they're large. And yeah, you get some shore leave, but you can't go anywhere. I don't know if these guys had taxis that could come onto the base. Eventually on Fort Meade, we did, like, the taxis were able to come onto base and pick us up rather than us walking all the way out there. But again, I can't really compare my my experiences because it was 20 years after. Oh God, I'm so fucking old. It's 20 years after all of this stuff. So, but yes, not having the time and not having the transportation to actually go and enjoy yourself, and then when you go out there, you're getting mugged. Somebody's trying to offer you drugs. You're getting offered prostitutes. We are on the podcast obviously pro sex worker, but they're at these times in the Navy it's a lot more pushy, and it's not the nice OnlyFans kind of entrepreneurial sex workers. This is not as great. So they're probably not too happy about that. They're getting pushed drugs. They're getting mugged. It's not a place that some people feel safe. So I get it. So back at it. With tensions mounting daily, the Navy officials declared the Strip and Foss Park off limits to Navy personnel and tightened security measures when the word was out that the Strip would be torched next. A sailor was heard to remark, "The whole place should be flattened." At the time, Strip merchants were calling for the lifting of off-limit orders as their entire area was becoming a ghost town, as one merchant commented. So, live by the shitty sailors, die by the shitty sailors. Like, yeah, they're throwing bricks and stuff, but like they're the only people who come down to the Strip to get, mugged and get tattoos and buy prostitutes. Nobody else, the locals aren't doing it. We need the troops to do it. The off-limits order was rescinded after 8 days, right after the 4th of July, but all was not well still at the Navy base. Courts-martial actions were underway, some sailors got off, and others were sentenced up to 30 days in the brig. Both merchants and Navy were blaming the all-volunteer military for their problems. Quote, better training and military discipline would have reduced the probability of a riot by 95%, end quote, says Captain Robert Colvin, base commander. Oh, for sure. Now, captain's an 06 in the Navy, so that's not, for those of you who know military ranks, it's not an 03, that's a 6 who's running things, but, you know, there's probably a lot of things that would have prevented it, and hitting sailors more, I mean, to be fair, in the past, hitting sailors has been how you discipline sailors. It's just you hit them, and either they shape up or they die, and you get another sailor. That's some 1800s privateering for you. But you know, nowadays, you got to be a little bit nicer to get what you want out of your sailors. So, quote, they're different. These sailors today, said Mary Stack, owner of Mary's Tailor Shop on the Strip. They lack discipline. They've never had to work, and they lack education. They're just a bunch of kids. Fucking, that's how it's always been that way. I mean, I guess World War II, maybe the average age in World War II was higher than it was during Vietnam. So like, okay, maybe I get that, but like, that's not these kids' fault. Like, they're the ones who, yeah, a 19-year-old with a paycheck away from his house, away from his family for the first time, and, you know, basically trained to do a bunch of like military shit. Yeah, they're gonna start feeling their fucking oats and go out and do some stuff. It's not on them, lady. Don't blame them. So even a petty officer said, "I'll tell you what the trouble is. The kids are running the Navy." Oh God, fucking old people. I swear to God, every generation does this. I try so hard not to. I try not to be the back in my day. I just like to compare how things were when I was in versus how things are now. Actually, I kind of want to get a newer soul. I want to get somebody who's gone through basic training in the last year and a half or so, and have them tell it to me and explain kind of how things work now. I'd be very interested to see, just because, like I said, I've got 20-year difference in between, and they were still training us on Cold War stuff back when I went through. All right. So before the off-limits rule was lifted, Captain Colvin was relieved of command. Yeah, probably. No faith in him. He was replaced by Rear Admiral T.L. Malone Jr., Chief of the Naval Technical Training Command in Millington, Tennessee. Colvin planned to retire anyway in September, as was retained as Malone's special assistant for the remainder of his tour. The next surprise came from the Pentagon when it announced in mid-July that North Chicago and the Strip merchants would be reimbursed by the Navy for damages caused by the rioting. The only string attached was that no reimbursements would be made to North Chicago or the individual property owners who received insurance payments for damages. The Navy also excluded payments for loss of profits and overtime expenses. So, once again, be kind to your sailors, because when you have like 300 of them and you piss them all off at the same time, and, you know, when people kind of get into a rioty mood, it's hard to kind of break them out of that. You know, like, look, we're already beating up civilians for kicking the shit out of our buddy. While we're here, you know what also pisses me off? This fucking tailor shop that charges 3 times as much as a tailor shop anywhere else. Let's throw a brick through the window. Again, we're not condoning. I'm just saying I understand where the where this stuff kind of comes from. So we have another piece here called "Working Can Be Hazardous to Your Health." This is very reminiscent of the 3M hearing lawsuits that have been happening for a long time. If you're not in the military, you might not know about them, but the 3M manufacturing made hearing protection for the military for a long time. It turns out it didn't work out all that well, and a lot of people still got tinnitus. So there was, for a long time, I was getting ads in Facebook and Instagram about, you know, oh, you're a veteran, you should see if you've got this tinnitus problem. Thankfully, I was not around prolonged sounds for any period of time. I always wore my ear protection on the rifle range, as a good troop does who cares about his hearing. So I'm still fairly good with my hearing. However, you know, your hearing has always been a thing that has been something that you have to look out for, because the military certainly isn't. And I know now we're getting a lot better about hearing protection, noise protection. When you go out on mission, you're supposed to wear these headsets that have, you know, that can bring down, you can talk to people, they're radios, but they also help knock out some of the sounds that are around you. So if you're out and about, you're working on tanks, you're shooting guns, anything like that, you have this one-stop shop. You put these on, you just wear them all the time. I don't know how well they work. Again, I was never really in any heavy combat, and usually when I was in a truck, I didn't really want to talk to anybody else, so I kept the headphones off anyway. So, but these are, as we said, Vietnam era magazines. This one came out in 1979. So even back then, it was still a thing that you had to watch out for. And there are articles about it, and this article kind of explains what decibels are, and uses some of the things that like mechanics in the military or machinists in the military might be coming under issues with. Because again, this is. But just because selective service, which ended in 1976, is no longer happening, enlisted people are still kind of getting dicked over. So that's why something like this kind of exists at the time. And it's unfortunate that this doesn't continue to exist because when this was coming out, we were a volunteer military at that point. And publications like this were very important for enlisted people because a lot of the publications, your Army Times, your Military Times, Stars and Stripes, things like that, those are all very I don't want to say dedicated. They're for everybody in the military, but let's be honest, it's more for your senior NCOs and your officer class people. Like the E3s aren't necessarily reading Army Times or Stars and Stripes. So Enlisted Times was an ability to kind of have that. Have those conversations with the lower ranking people who maybe these other publications don't really reach to, and they don't really care to reach to them because a lot of times you're enlisted, you're in for your stint, and you're getting out. So again, this is called Working Can Be Hazardous to Your Health. Noise to you may just seem like an unpleasant sound, but in fact it's a true pressure wave, which is real and powerful as the waves of the ocean. At times it can also be just as dangerous. The unit used to measure noise is called the decibel, and decibels are arrayed over a logarithmic scale. That means every increase of 10 decibels is the same as multiplying the intensity of that sound by 10. So an increase of 20 decibels is the same as a 100-fold increase in the intensity of that sound. Keep in mind that any continuous sound longer than 80 decibels could cause serious harm. So 80 decibels, that's our anything above that. So some things that's estimated sound levels for these things. So grinding machines is 80 to 89. The lathe is 80 to 89. 90 to 99 decibels is a pneumatic drill. Operating a gas welder on steel. Running a pneumatic press or using a riveting hammer is 100 to 109. Combustion engines 110 to 119. And then a jet is 130 decibels plus. Your ears can suffer two types of damage, one temporary, the other permanent, from this kind of exposure. The first type, known as temporary threshold shift, occurs when the nerve fibers which mediate the sound to your brain get fatigued. Heavy vibes wear them out, and when they get tired, you temporarily lose your ability to hear within a certain frequency range. I believe we all know that heavy vibes can definitely wear us all out. For instance, if you experience a 15 decibel temporary threshold shift, the sound will have to be 15 decibels louder than before in order for you to hear it. If you're the victim of this TTS, your hearing will return in normal time, but the body's ability to repair itself depends on whether the ear is given sufficient time to recover. The second type of damage is called permanent noise-induced threshold shift. If you spend enough time in noisy work sites and suffer enough TTS, you'll eventually lose the ability to heal that temporary damage, and you'll be left with permanent hearing loss. The more intense the sound and the louder the exposure, the greater the likelihood of damage, of course. So, you work in a noise-polluted job, rest periods and job rotations can at best save your hearing, and at worst prolong the time it takes for you to develop permanent hearing loss. Noise also affects other parts of the nervous system. Noise-related stress also often shows up as circulatory, heart, digestive tract, and equilibrium disturbance problems. So yes, if you're the fluids in your ears and everything, you start fucking things up in there, it's really close to your brain, and that can cause all kinds of problems all over the place. I definitely know people who, when they get stomach problems when they are in crowded areas because there's just so much noise pollution happening, and the brain can't really discern it. So it depends on the brain for things like that. But when it comes to just regular hearing, that which is what we're talking about here, the prolonged exposure to loud noises causes the issue. In many shops, earmuffs, essentially headphones without speakers, are passed out to employees. At best, these earmuffs cut about 30 to 40 decibels, which may or may not be sufficient depending on where you work. Beware of simple earplugs. Even the best cut the sound down only 25 decibels. But until noise control technology is used by the military, make use of any protective gear you can find. Remember, protecting your hearing isn't part of the mission. If you don't watch out for it, who will? Thankfully now, the hearing protection is a absolute necessity in the military. You always got your earplugs in. Now you got eye protection on all the time. I know, like the kids in basic training now, they always have to wear their eye pro wherever whenever they're out and about. So. The Army has gotten a little bit better about personal protective equipment, but, we still work in noisy environments. But I am fairly sure now, and I don't know, I don't know enough about labor history, but, if we think about things like OSHA coming around and other workplace, safety, environmental safety things, I know now, like when I go to, if I'm backstage somewhere, so my brother works at the Arch in St. Louis, and sometimes he can, if he's working, he's like, hey, do you want to check out, the underground tunnels? You can watch the elevator go up from a different area. So he'll bring us in, but there's always ear protection. There's always head protection. And he's always like, yep, get all that stuff on. You're going to need it for where we're going. And even if it's just for a couple, like, oh, we're going to be there for like 30 seconds and then we're going to leave. You got to have that stuff on for that 30 seconds. Not only is it, legally you have to do it, but safety wise you have to do it. And I am, my hearing at the age of 40 is still pretty good. Like there's a couple ranges I have problems with, but I never was around a lot of noise pollution. I didn't go to loud concerts when I was younger or anything like that, and I continue to not really do those things. So thankfully my hearing is pretty good, but I know for a lot of people in the military, tinnitus is an issue, especially if you were deployed in maybe the first half of the wars, in the aughts, where like you had the plugs, but like you didn't want to put ear plugs in when you're in combat because then you can't hear what else is going on. So, you sacrifice your hearing so that you're able to, listen to squad commands or something like that. So like I said, I know now the headphones that they have are pretty great. You can talk through them. I'm sure people are going to, it's like, oh no, the things fucking suck, but they're better than nothing. They're certainly better than what these guys had, which was jack and shit, so we're talking a 40-year difference here. So I wanted to read this one because these are still things that are problems today for members of the military. I like to think that it's a lot better than it was back then. But yeah, your hearing doesn't come back; it degrades. Like you're never, just like your eyesight. Like LASIK surgery is just like etching glasses or etching contacts into your eyes. So it doesn't come back. You got to take care of it. So, and if you're not taking care of it, then yeah, nobody else is going to. As always, guys, thank you for listening or watching or however you were consuming this. We still have in the store, I still have Soviet pins on sale. These are a great little collector for you. This is my collection of after the many pins that I've actually kind of processed through the store. These are some of my favorites that I pulled out, but you can see there's a wide variety, and there's a lot of great pins that I send out that are like these are the ones that I really enjoy. And I'll be honest, sometimes I pull these off and send them out because I want to replace them with new ones. I have to kind of keep my own pin game in check, otherwise it gets really bad. So these are on sale, $8. You get at least 4 pins. If you order multiple bags, then I will make sure that you don't have any duplicates in there. But thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you have anything that you think would be great for the show, if there's any comments that you want to leave, please leave them. I have these on the YouTube. Hopefully I'm going to start putting them up in different places that people can listen to it. But I'm always looking for some new stuff. We didn't do a technical this week. I'm just, we can't do everything. I wanted to talk about Tuberville, and I wanted to talk about going to Branson a little bit. So it'll all come back around. Don't worry, I have plenty of technicals for us to talk about. Might do a whole video just some of my favorite technicals out there. Anyway, thank you guys, and we'll talk to you next week.